Hello everybody and welcome back to another drumming lesson with me, Russ Ramsunder and Groove Studios, baby. Yeah, let's get it on. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about this, the drumstick, all right? And my approach and what I teach to my students when it comes to playing simple grooves around the kit, all right? Now I think my very first lesson on this channel was how to hold your drumstick. So if you haven't checked that out yet, please go check it out. And I think that today is probably lesson number 6 or something like that. I don't know, I've lost track, guys. But whatever, all right. Today we're going to be talking about how I use the drumstick, and especially on my hi-hat when I am playing grooves on my hi-hat. The first thing I want to talk about is what I do when I play quarter notes. In other words, a quarter notes hi-hat pattern. I play what I call my whipping technique, all right? And remember, these are names that I've come up with so that my students that I teach, well, it's easily understandable for them, and hopefully this will be easily understandable for you as well, all right? Now, when I play my quarter notes, like I said, I use a whipping technique. And what is the whipping technique? Well, think about if you had a whip in your hand, right? So this stick, and it has a long piece of leather or rope, whatever, in front of it, all right? If you want to crack that, you don't simply do this and throw the stick down. There's not going to be enough power in that, all right? So what is the whipping motion? Think about it. A whip, you crack a whip like that. And there's a couple of things that's happening just in that small little motion. First thing is I unlock my wrist, I unlock my wrist so that the stick is pointing downwards, all right? And from here, I'll bring the stick up, let it rotate pretty much almost at almost a 270-degree angle here, and then boom, I lay down the head itself, all right? Now that looks really cumbersome as slowly as I'm doing that, but I want to point out, when I teach this, sometimes I've noticed a lot of students using their shoulder to get the stick pointing down. All right, we really don't want to do this. You're going to end up with shoulder injuries and stuff. I don't want anyone to hurt themselves, so this is why I'm telling you, unlock from the wrist. See that? All right, wrist goes down here, arc up, over, and you attain your hit. And predominantly when I'm playing my hi-hat with this nice strong quarter notes pattern, I hit the edge of my hi-hat. It gives me a nice chunky, crisp kind of sound, you know, it's like a really nice strong hit, all right? And that leads me into the next thing, which is eighth notes and how I approach eighth notes. So I, again, teach this. It's probably what you know as a rocking motion, or what some people have spoken about as a rocking motion, but I call it my shoulder tip technique. Not this shoulder, but the shoulder of the stick, all right? So I always say to my students, imagine that this is the shoulder of the stick right here, okay? And here's the tip of the stick right here. And what I do is, for my first stroke, I go into my whipping motion, all right? Land on the shoulder of the stick. Now this is important. Stick comes up, all right? And you notice that the stick is still pointing upwards. It hasn't moved. My wrist has not done anything. All I've done is raise the stick up. And you're gonna say, but Ross, you used your shoulder for that. Yes, I did use my shoulder for that a little bit, all right? But I didn't flare my elbow out. I brought my elbow forward, all right? So I want to start that again, all right? So whipping motion onto the shoulder, stick goes up, and again, I unlock from my wrist for my tip, all right? That does 2 things for me. If you're counting this, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, you'll notice that every time I'm playing a quarter note, the 1, 2, 3, and 4, that's landing on my shoulder. Every time I'm playing the and, it is landing on my tip. So it gives me a really strong sense of pulse. Like, I don't sit here and go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. I sit here and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? The other thing that it does, and this is why I call myself Groove Studios, is because it gives me two different sounds on my hi-hats, all right? I get the nice when I'm on the shoulder and a super nice crispy little tip when I do play the hi-hat with the tip of the stick. Now, 16th notes, I have two ways that I do my 16th notes, and that's depending on the song that I'm doing or the piece of music that I'm doing. I can take exactly the same approach, shoulder tip for 16th notes, but then the count becomes 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Or I play shoulder tip. And this is a little bit more of a subtle thing where it keeps the pulse nice and strong, but all of the E, the 16th notes in between the E and an is a lot more subtle. So 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. And built into that little motion is something called the molar technique. If you don't know what that is, I suggest maybe you just do a little bit of research on that and it will make a lot more sense. But what about playing 16th notes with two hands? Well, we all know that we can play any 16th note pattern with one hand or with two hands, and with two hands, the way that I do it is grip, control, triangle. See? Didn't forget my basics, all right? And I do a shoulder, tip, tip, tip. So shoulder in the right, tip in the left, tip in the right, tip in the left. In other words, 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. And when I'm doing that, well, when we're doing that in the actual application of a 16th note groove, you're gonna say, yeah, but Ross, for 2 and 4, predominantly, most of the time your hand is coming down to play the snare drum. Absolutely. And I treat my snare drum the same as I would treat the shoulder of the stick when I'm playing the hi-hat. So 1 E and a, in other words, shoulder, tip, 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 then snare, tip, tip, tip. Shoulder, tip, 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 snare, tip, 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 shoulder, tip, 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 snare, tip, tip, tip. All right? And what about triplets? Well, again, triplets, I think about it and I'm still going to use my shoulder and tip, but we've got a series of 3 notes. So if I want to keep my quarter note pulse strong, I'm going to go 1 triplet, 2 triplet, or shoulder, tip, tip, shoulder, tip, tip. So I really hope that helps. Again, this is just the way that I do it, the way I teach it, and it makes a lot of sense to me because regardless of what you're doing, you're always feeling that pulse in your hand. And a lot of the times when we're playing quicker stuff, we don't want to be counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's too much for our brains, it's too much for our mouths. We can't even say those things that quickly, all right? But it's a lot easier to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I hope that made sense, guys, and I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, and comment if you have anything you want to say. I've had a few comments on my videos, and to those people I want to say thank you so much for engaging with me and engaging with the channel and engaging with the content. It really means the world to me, and I will see you at the next one where I'm going to be breaking down and explaining timing and why timing doesn't have to be this mystical thing, mystery to us. It's actually quite simple, and I'm going to use pizza. I will see you there. Take care. Good luck.